So, Coach Helen for YouFit Studio, trying to knock over everything in one go. Talking about rest and digest. This is a flip to another live I did a couple of weeks ago, Fight or Flight, and there's not much of this going on right now in terms of rest and digest, not going to lie, and it came up again recently with another client who wanted to talk about this, and she said, I just don't know what's going on with my digestion. I don't know how to make it better or what's happening. Just anxiety, stress, and actually for her, she just wanted to understand more about the flip side, like how to understand when I've got there, when do I know I've got the balance between one and the other, when have I stopped being in stress state, and when have I started to help my body recover, however you want to say it. And this is how we got into it. And this is where this life comes from, is actually just assisting that client kind of see it. And for a lot of people as well at the minute, there's a lot of, they use the word anxiety, fear, discomfort, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot going on all over the place. Not much in Leicester, obviously it's exactly the same. Everywhere else in the world, there's stuff happening. Our spiritual client isn't in Leicester today. Hey, Kimmy. And she was saying it's like going back to normal. And actually, that's quite a stressful thing, actually. She had quite high anxiety over it because it is going back to normal. And that for her meant the craziness that she'd not been dealing with for the last 6 months. And so, sort of all going off all over the place. So what is rest and digest, or how am I approaching this? I think the important thing is to understand what it is, or what it means. And I like to think it's a bit like a bit of self-care, because what's actually happening is you're giving yourself mentally and physically a bit of a break, which sounds insane if you say, right, but we've been on a break for 5 to 6 months, Helen. There's some degree from a literal environmental point of view. That doesn't mean you've been kind to yourself or your body during that at all, really. If anything, literally again, speaking to a couple of clients over today who've probably done entirely the opposite. They've been quite unkind to their bodies during lockdown, even though they're officially taking a step out of their norm. Actually, they've not been allowing their bodies to rest. In fact, they're doing entirely the opposite. So why is it important? You can move over to, you come on over, Kimmy, you come over to Facebook. So why is it important? We have and this is what triggered with this client as well, which is about going back to normal life. It was like going back to, it's like going back into, I don't know, how did she put it? It's like jumping straight in the deep end. Because it's going straight back into levels of stress, etc., that were there entirely before in February. Not changed, as in not got better or worse. It's actually because she'd been away for it for some time. Actually, it was like going off the deep end, because it's like, oh my God, I've forgotten what this is like. I've forgotten what my day-to-day life is like. I've forgotten what it's like to be at this speed all the time. And actually, generally speaking, if I'm honest, speaking to a majority of clients, we generally lead quite high stress lives in the norm. It's quite I've talked about the tortoise and the hare, and how we're kind of taught to be more hare-like. Like we have to be fast, you have to be furious, have to grind everything out as hard as possible. We're rewarded if we work like that as well. Actually, our bodies are so far into stress states most of the time that we're going from a period of time where it's not been there, it's straight back in it. And our bodies stay in a stress state, really, to be honest. And digestion and resting is one of those things that mentally and physically we just don't really pay much attention to, or arguably don't put value on, shall we say. Kate's already saying it's never really happened. Yes, Kate, it's like it never really happened. Like we never had the time out. Yes, straight back in it. So for Kate, as an example of a client who's gone straight back into working life, for those people, there is a settling period of going, and I'm sure Kate will attest to this, there's a couple of weeks of going, what the heck happened? And actually, firstly, there's 2 points, right? So firstly, actually, we haven't been looking after our bodies during lockdown, and secondly, then we're given a baptism of fire of going back into our stressful lives that we had before. So why is it important to rest and digest? So technical with syllables now. Essentially, there's an automated system, right? So it's automatic. We don't even we have no control over it. There isn't a control switch we consciously choose. It's not like doing a bicep curl. We go, I'm choosing to do this now. Our body chooses to do it, a bit like it chooses to breathe. I hope we all unconsciously breathing. You're not physically going, breathe in, breathe out. And our parasympathetic, see, long word, system is exactly that. It's on its own command. And so it just kicks in and actually is responsible for all the fantastic things, and it's part of our nervous system. So it lowers blood pressure, promotes digestion, so essentially keeps you ticking over nicely, allows sleep to take place, allows you to recover, all the fun things, especially if you're female as well. It does certainly promote the ability to conceive or to have a period, especially at the moment. That's quite a big one that's cropping up. It allows our bodies to do all the things that it wants to do when it's not in a stress state. So just by me listing off those things there, you can actually understand why, if I take that term rest and digest, why rest is so important with lives at a high speed that generally put us in a stress state, like I've gone over. Lowering your blood pressure, improving your sleep quality, getting energy from food, doing all the fantastic things that it needs is really flipping important, especially if you're wanting to lose weight. All of those things are really important, because actually the polar opposite is if you're in a stress state, none of that happens. Least of all worrying about whether or not you're having protein in a meal or going for training, because your body's just not in that place. So resting and actually paying attention and being mindful and conscious, if it's that system isn't conscious, what we can do consciously is choose how to act in our behaviours and support that, which I'm going to go into a bit later on. But actually that element of it is completely automated, right? How we act isn't, right? We can help support that kick in a little bit more often and give us all those benefits. So why digest, right? So why rest and digest? Why do we need to be resting and digesting at the same time? Surely, like, they're two separate things. No, not really. Digestion is so unique from person to person based on age, background, gut health, gut biome, such unique, but it's like a fingerprint. Digestion is like a fingerprint, and it's unique to the individual. I could have two people in front of me, feed them exactly the same food, and they'll digest it differently and get different amount of energy from it, and that's to do with all those factors. And that's a fascinating thing for me, strangely, you might think. A fascinating thing for me is also challenging when we're going through a period of time like this, to actually get to the bottom of how to help somebody deal with high levels of stress, and also to promote the ability to rest and digest. Why? Because I want them, I mentioned it earlier, to have the most amount of energy from their food. Now, if you're in a stress state and your digestion isn't as efficient because it's just trying to churn through the food, it stands to reason that your digestion is under a lot of pressure. And add in that, and this is, again, goes to a lot of lives I've done recently, generally speaking, and you'll know this yourself, if you're rushing from one thing to the next in a high stress environment, work or otherwise, I heard it described once as an anaconda, where someone kind of like appears to be able to dislocate their jaw and inhale their food at a speed that allows them to be somewhere else, because they're completely disengaged with the eating process. And it's no surprise to know that digestion starts from a physical point of view with chewing. And actually, when someone's in a high stress state, they're really not even digesting from the off, because they're anacondaing food down their throat to be getting on with the next thing to do, because that in that moment the next thing is more important or has more value, and so they're barely not even chewing their food. So the body's already kind of overworked trying to break down the food from the mouth into system from the get-go. So when you have people who have acid reflux, or like heartburn, as you want to call it, or anything like that. It's even starting from that. They're not even digesting food because they're doing the opposite. They're not resting to digest. Then take that down into the digestive system itself. The food, it just is only partly digested or broken down even at that stage. And so how much can be taken from that food from a nutritional point of view? Not as much as somebody who's actually eating slowly, engaging in the process. You'd also find getting lower down the system, let's just say what it is, pretty poor toilet behaviours. I went through that whole life last time and said the word poo about 6 times. I've said it now once already. However, you'll see all that. You'll see problems with people being able to go to the toilet because they're just not digesting food at all, because they're not getting fibre from the food because they're not digesting it, or adversely, they may be going like 3 or 4 times a day and eating a load of food and actually not gaining weight. And that's not because they're mythical unicorns. It's just actually their body's not taking any nutrition from the food. So they're not healthy because they're not gaining weight. Actually, you could argue their insides are less healthy because they're unable to take any energy or nutrition from the food. All the things that need to support all the mechanisms inside us, all this intricate fun stuff. For me, again, I'm fascinated by this stuff. You can't recover. You have someone who's training not even loads, like 3 or 4 times a week, exhausted because their body's not digesting the food. They're not relaxing, not stopping, resting to actually digest their food. They'll have issues with hair and nails and things like that, or skin irritations, all down to digestion and not actually slowing down to stop to eat, or like I said, breaking down the food to eat. And all this stuff has again, as you just, I'm sure you can draw the lines, like you put all that into someone who's looking to become more healthy and losing weight, and actually just our sheer approach to general life is just counterproductive to actually, look at that long words, doesn't support, let's go back to basics, doesn't support someone losing weight, because actually from a health perspective, they are generally quite unhealthy people. And the thing is that, how do you know this? Well, generally speaking, energy is low, like energy is very, very low. Waking up in the middle of the night anyway, but waking up in the morning with 0 energy to start the day, and maybe peaking at 9 and then dropping at 11, right? So sleep quality, food quality, all of that is, generally speaking, someone will feel it. They'll feel run down. They'll feel like there's nothing in the tank. They will feel like they just need to sleep all the time, a lot of the time as well. So I did mention earlier, how do I start supporting that, or how can someone start supporting? I mean, it goes without saying, stop and eat. Well, our clients, and you guys will know, if you're members, we know that we advocate that how long you eat, you stop, rest and digest. Like, there's science behind it. Someone said to me once, I think he'd been a member for about a year, and he said, I actually just thought it was hippie stuff, and then I realised it wasn't just because you wanted me to. I mean, but he thought engage with food was like, I don't know, actually engage with it in some like weird spiritual way. And he's like, now I understand what you meant, right? So he's actually stopping and actually paying attention to the process of eating is something, like I said, we're just not used to doing in this day and age. We're used to being on the go. Actually, though, to rest and actually properly eat our food and actually stop the thought process of having something more important to do, or I just need to get through this, get it done because there's an email to send, or I don't know, I'm glazing through Instagram as I'm eating because I'm mindlessly just getting it. I'm dislocating my jaw and getting it down. Is just everything opposite to that is way to go, right? So stopping and actually breathing between eating already helps. It's like keystones for me. I call them like keystone elements of looking at them. Looking at that is saying, right, breathe. Firstly, learn how to breathe. Right? Sounds really basic. When I said being conscious of breathing, I wasn't really joking. Actually, to stop, listen to your breath. Actually, belly breathe. Take a moment to actually rest out of your day. That does sound hippie. I'll accept that and own it. Ching. If that gets somebody to feel better about their life, breathe away. Right? I will take that. I will stand in a corner and breathe with you with my eyes closed, right? Because it's fundamentally one of the best things somebody can ever do. alongside like taking the time to eat right. Looking at things that are doing the polar opposite: high caffeine, high alcohol drinks. Not letting your body rest, actually. They're doing entirely the opposite. You think you're combating the low energy with throwing some caffeine at it. Actually, what you're doing is actually stressing out even more. So the more you start to become less reliant on those things, the better you're going to feel. Drinking actually water. I know. How boring and basic. And yet, somebody will go, oh my God, and I realised how good drinking water was. I feel so good. I'm like, yes, drinking water is good. Paying attention to your sleep. Like, you really want to instigate feeling that relaxed sensation. Sleep means that I've done a whole live on sleep. Please check it out. I've done a podcast on it. Please check it out. I go through some physical things you can do. I spoke to a client today and said, if you're checking your emails before you go to sleep, you're not ready for sleep. If you're checking just in case someone's emailed you at 10 o'clock at night, just in case, you're not ready for sleep. If you're waking up in a panic state to check those emails again, just in case, you are not prepped for sleep on either side. And that, unfortunately, is the truth. Like, sleep is paramount, but all this is why I call the key sense. It's all paramount, really. Slow down everything. I've actually underlined it on my notepad. Slow down everything. I've talked about food as a lot to do with it because you can get the energy from it that you need to rest and digest. Slowing everything down in life, even when you think you can't, you can. The most important things that we've like time is relative right now. I could do a whole life just on time. Like, let's discuss time in a hippie way. Like, what the heck's happened to this year? However, if anything, the most common thing I'm hearing from clients is that it's taught me about time and how I'm spending it and what I'm getting from time, right? Kate went back in there early. I'm going to give it to Kate because Kate went into life early. Good for you, Kate. You were like the flagship of people who got into life here, like at that stage. A lot of people are just starting to follow now. And that means there's a little bit of a juggling of understanding. Am I going straight into stress state? Am I going straight back into life I had before in January and February that I came accustomed to, that was socially acceptable? Is that because we did? Or am I actually going to do what I said I would during lockdown, which is reevaluate how I'm looking after myself? Like, going back to the first point I made, is there self-care going on to rest and look after yourself and look after your nutrition? Rest. I know it's the name of the podcast. It involves a lot of other things as well. Am I actually going to do that, or am I going to go straight into Hail Mary, I'm here, I'm back to this way of living, I'm back to this way of looking at how I look after myself? And I think every single one of us is going to have a bit of a juggling balance of, okay, what do I not want? What do I want? What can I have? Why am I in control of and not in control of? And where am I going to have those conversations, etc., to ensure that I am actually showing some self-care? That's a broader topic in itself. But actually, just being able to relax and eat, you could have all those benefits straight off the bat, right? Imagine if you can support a system to very breathe and eat properly and drink water, sleep. Sounds basic, and yet it's so many things that we don't actually pay attention to or become mindful of. And yes, Kate, I'm doing a live just on that. Mindful. There's so many things that we just don't value or haven't valued before now. So hence why this live. Right, so recap. Boom. So it was about rest and digest. Self-care, people. Care for yourselves, please. We're about to go back in. We're back in it. So just give your body a break and let it do its job. Let it do its job. It's good at it. We just don't let it do it all the time, do we? We just throw stuff at it. Why is it important when we live such stressful lives, or have done? And actually, if we can't look after it and show some self-love mentally and physically, we won't be going for long again. We have a system that's just like, can't stop it. We can't stop it doing what it wants to do. However, we can start to change our behaviours and actions, so we can start to ensure we're taking actions that promote a system to look after ourselves, right? We can bring down that fight or flight by taking some actions. We want to promote digestion, reduce blood pressure, improve sleep quality. We want to digest our food. Please, people, chew, swallow in a timely fashion without dislocating your jaw to get it down. There's nothing more important. You think there is? There's nothing more important than time, right? Give your bodies a break. Show some self-love. I went through the what I call keystones of living to help that happen, and that's breathing. Breathe through it. Drink plenty of water. Protect your sleep like it's your firstborn, and slow everything down. And that is how you would start to understand the benefits of resting and digesting and feeling your friendly system, your parasympathetic system. I had to get it in again just because of a little teeth. You rest and digest. So tomorrow's Tuesday. I know that for sure. Oh, I've been looking for this one for some time. Oh, I feel like I'm going to ruin it. Oh, it's a good one. Putting yourself in pain. Oh, I certainly did that today. Right. Have a lovely evening, and I will catch you for tomorrow's live at 5. Until then, ciao.